Hello and welcome to Miss Charlotte Astrology. I'm Miss Charlotte, a full-time working astrologer, and on this channel I analyse the astrological charts of public figures. And while very often they are celebrities, even royalty, I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to look at the chart of one of the greatest writers, authors of all time, Truman Capote. He wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's, which was then adapted to become a film, and that's like the most famous Audrey Hepburn film. So we can thank him for that. And In Cold Blood, fantastic. It's so good. It was the beginnings of true crime. So several generations of women can thank Truman Capote for their true crime addictions. Like, we can thank him for it. He's the one that started it all. Go read that book. I taught it to 11th grade a few years ago, and they were just all these kids were just so fascinated. They were truly teaching his book that year, and it was my last year of teaching. I think it was. Made me love teaching, and I was really, really sick of it. I was so sick of teaching, but In Cold Blood is the type of thing you want to teach when you hate teaching, when you're about to retire. So the reason why I am going to look at his chart today is because he's been, not in the news, but there's sort of in the news. There's a new limited series that's come out called Capote and the Swans. I haven't watched it yet. I'm waiting to sit down with a friend and watch that on a girls' night. But I've been doing some research, and also it's called Capote and the Swans. It's about his life in Manhattan, New York, and all of his 30-year relationships with these Manhattanite women, with these very upper class women who were just so powerful, fashion icons. Jackie Kennedy's sister, Lee, was one of his closest friends, and he betrayed them all. All these very powerful, high-end women. He told all their dirty little secrets. He aired out their laundry in a book, in an article, and then they all turned their backs on him, and that was his downfall. And then he died a broken man with a drug and alcohol problem. But he did leave a really fantastic legacy, and he changed the world. A shame that he couldn't just get his shit together and just be a nicer person. Anyway, so we're going to look at his chart today. Before I dive in, I just want you guys to know that I do 60-minute readings. They're on Zoom. They are recorded, so you don't have to bring a notebook. I record all my readings. It's almost like an insurance policy, but it's good for you because then you can just chill. And then and then I do 20-minute recorded readings if you can't meet up for an appointment, if the timetable's not good for you, if you want something more in your budget. The 20-minute recorded readings are sent to you as an MP3 through your email. You don't have to see me. So yeah. Okay, great. Let's have a look at Truman Capote's chart, shall we? Libra Sun, Scorpio Moon, Aquarius Rising, Mars in Aquarius, Venus in Leo. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Mars and Venus in opposing signs. That is not fun. That's like a very intense game of ping pong. Oof. Opposed placements. They kind of suck. Like, you can get good things out of them, don't get me wrong, but, there is always a silver lining to a gray cloud kind of thing, but an opposition is a very gray fucking cloud, let me tell you. All right. He's a Libra sun, and I don't want the Libras to get upset with me. Think of it as a gift. You're really good at manipulating people, okay? Very sweet, very kind. You got that people pleaser thing at your own detriment. You can be too compassionate. I get it. You can be all those things, but you can also be nasty little gossipy bitches that have everyone's informations. You're really good at talking, and I say this as someone who is a Libra moon, and I have a Libra sun sibling. You're so good at being nice, but nice is not warm, and nice is not always the same thing as kind. Okay, so with his sun in Libra, even though he was a weirdo and he was odd and he was all those things, he was very good socially, very socially intelligent signs. And the fact that sun is in the 8th house, he could do small talk in a deep way and just get information out of people. Just like, it was effortless. People trusted him, you know? Because he was so unassuming, you know what I mean? Like, he was short, he was gay. All these women that he knew, it wasn't like he wants to sleep with me. He doesn't want anything from me. He just wants to be friends. Yes, because he loved the high life. And also, okay, don't want to, this is not me talking trash about his physical appearance at all, but he was harmless looking, right? Look how sweet he looks, actually. Yeah, he just wasn't someone that seemed very powerful, right? He came from, I don't know if it was, I don't know if you would describe his parents as poor. They had a lot of money issues from what I understand, but he didn't come from anything close to what these swans were from, right? He didn't come from Manhattanite socialite stock, okay? He has very humble beginnings. So there's a lot of things about him, and being an oddball, if you listen to the way he speaks as well, like, you would never think that this man would be as powerful as he was. But that's the reason why he was so powerful, was because he was so unassuming. So having a Libra sun in that 8th house, he's a Scorpio Libra. If I read it as this placement, he's a very Scorpionic Libra. He has everyone's secrets, and he did he had everyone's secrets for a very long time. And then he told them all. Big mistake. I have a feeling he did that out of desperation. I think he had a lot of bills to pay. He had a life to upkeep, and then he was so full of drugs. Look at this. So full of drugs and so full of alcohol that he was so desperate. And he wasn't really creative in the last years of his life, or the last decade or two of his life, because he was just so inebriated and desperate, and that's why he hurt people. And even that North node in the 7th house of friendship with Neptune, with Venus. Okay, Venus and 7th house are associated with friends and lovers, but friends. And then Neptune is betrayal. And that's exactly where he headed, and that was his downfall. All of his girls broke it off with him. And then that led to a very sad, tragic demise, fall from greatness. He got disgraced, basically. I could read his sun in Libra. If I was to do equal housing. Anyway, if I was to read this as a whole sign or equal houses, that sun would fall into the 9th house, which is higher education, which is travel. So in that way, he could be quite Sagittarius kind of Libra. And he was. He did, wherever the sun shines is where you have honor and glory. So higher education, he's very intellectual. He wants to get out of his small town and become big one day, which he did. He has that energy. His moon is in the 9th house with Saturn. So the fact that the most intimate part of his chart is in an unintimate space. He moved around a lot as a kid. Did he travel a lot as a kid? Did he travel, or is the word travel appropriate? He was moved around a lot as a kid, because that moon, the home, the mother, the family, it's nowhere near the 4th house. There's nothing in that 4th house. There's nothing rooting him. Like, he's got a Taurus 4th house, so he likes the lush things. He likes velvet and pillows and sex, and because Taurus is a very kind of greedy, lush, glamorous energy, but there's no placements here. His moon, which rules that 4th house, is way up here. A perpetually dissatisfied mother. And as a result, he is also emotionally just perpetually dissatisfied and bored. He's bored, and that might be part of the reason why he's nasty. He's always searching for something. I always say Sagittarius moons and 9th house moons, they're always looking for the next hit. They think that when they get that thing that they're going to be satisfied, and when they get it, they get bored. It's like that Marilyn Monroe song. After you get what you want, you don't want it. It's like that. And Saturn with the moon, the restriction, restriction of the mother, restriction of the home. At some point there was poverty, right? Some form of poverty or money problems. I mean, if I were to read this Saturn as ninth house, and I will, but I'll also read it as 10th house because that's where his midheaven lies. The father is also lost. The father is also moving around. It's just sad. It's pretty well aspected though. I feel like those experiences, because there's lots of blue lines, I feel like those experiences helped him earn money and helped with his creativity. But there could be issues with authority figures, fatherly figures. It doesn't like men. I know he was gay, but we're talking about men as fathers. There's issues with that. He has mummy and daddy issues. And and it's I read somewhere that daddy issues make you a people pleaser and mummy issues make you a sociopath. Imagine having both of those. Truman had both of those, and that makes a lot of sense. If I were to read his moon as playing into his 10th house, and I will, a lot of his feminine, maternal, creative energy is projected out into the world. So working with women or publicly dealing with a lot of women or working in some kind of feminine or creative profession, that makes a lot of sense. Exploring his emotions through something artistic, but it's also Scorpio, and Scorpio is the investigator. And what was in Cold Blood? What was that? That was literally an investigation. This is why that book is so good, because if you've got your moon playing out in the 10th house, or you've got your moon like on your midheaven, or it's like in the same sign as your midheaven, you're in the workspace, you're really good at connecting with people and nurturing people and making people feel comfortable with you in a very cold environment. You will be the warmth in the cold. And that's why when you read In Cold Blood and you're listening, if you read it through an audiobook, when you're reading the book and I was flabbergasted at how much those criminals told him and how vulnerable they were. That book has a twist too. You need to read that. That whole book is Scorpio moon in the 10th house. That whole book. It's very much a Scorpio moon in the 9th house as well, considering that Truman Capote had to travel a lot for that. And Saturn, that's in the same sign as the midheaven. So there's going to be a long, hard climb to the top, and then there may be a fall. But overall, a Saturn on the midheaven, Saturn in the 10th house, Saturn the same sign as the midheaven. Even if you do experience disgrace in your career or your public image, you're going to leave a legacy. I mean, even though Truman Capote was disgraced and he died in disgrace and he did all these horrible things and he hurt all these poor women, I mean, he's still the bloke that wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's and In Cold Blood. He's still that guy. He's still that bitch. Even though he's nasty and he's a narcissist, a sociopath with mommy and daddy issues, he's still the guy that wrote those books. It was fantastic. Jupiter in Sagittarius in the 10th, again, placement for success. It's a very respectful, noble placement. Like, he was popular for a very long time. He was the toast of the town. So Jupiter in the 10th house is good for career. If I read it as Jupiter in the 11th house, though, right? That's a very, very big network of people. Everyone knew him. He was the belle of the ball. So yeah, a very large network of all sorts of people. I feel like would I call him a snob? He's a Libra. There's two sides of him. There's this part of him that loved being in these elite circles and traveling around the world and wearing nice clothes and just being above everyone. There's that part of him, but he also is really good at connecting with people from the lower levels, really good with the pilgrims and the commoners. He was fantastic at that as well. So Sagittarius is a very, very vagabond energy. It's mutable. It's international. It knows everyone. It doesn't really have a prejudice. It's all about the seeking of higher knowledge. And sometimes you can seek higher knowledge from the rich and the elite. But very often you can get higher knowledge from, talking to people that are suffering, people that don't have a lot of money. Like I said, it is a vagabond energy more than anything. But yeah, and telling stories. Sagittarius and Jupiter is storytelling. So a lot of his creative, his inspiration came from the exploration of those social networks through travel, through the understanding of humanity through these very exotic experiences. It's a good placement. Yeah. But can I just talk about this square? You see how Jupiter squares Mercury? How I am reading this, and there's so many ways we could read this, but him spilling the beans, right? Him talking, remember Mercury's chit chat, him writing and talking might negatively impact these networks, these connections. He has all this knowledge. Jupiter in Sagittarius is at home. Mercury in Virgo is at home and exalted, but they don't like each other. He was talking too much, and that's the thing that hurt him. That's the thing that led to him being sick. Let's talk about him being an Aquarius rising. So you need to watch Philip Seymour Hoffman's, I think it's called Capote. You need to watch his performance. So good. Philip Seymour Hoffman. I always thought he was hot. I know. That's really weird, but he had that charisma. Oh, the charisma's hot. Just fantastic performance. He got the voice, everything. Very Aquarius rising vibes. The way he talks. I don't think I'm doing it right. It's just so alien. Literally, like Aquarius rising is the alien. And having Mars not on the ascendant, but in that first house. I wouldn't say he's aggressive, but he's very direct. Capote was very, very direct, and being bitchy worked for him. And he was bitchy, but he made it funny, so he got away with it. And then the ruler of his chart, it's Saturn, but it's also Uranus. So let's read that first. That is in retrograde. Yeah, he was a bit insecure about not fitting in. So fitting in. Oh, he was really insecure about not fitting in when he was young. So when he grew up and became this famous writer, I think he got greedy. But that's a big insecurity for him. Not being like the other kids and not being able to fit in. So when eventually he was, I think it did go to his head. And it also affected the way he managed money. Second house is finances. And I know it's in the first house, but it plays into that second house because that's where the second house cusp lies. But money comes in all of a sudden. It's a lot, but then it goes really quickly. And that is connected to, wanting to fraternize with very... what's the word we should use? Very glamorous. I'm being very kind. Very glamorous. Very greedy. Very vain people. He led a lush life, but as a result, he never made any long-term financial investments. He just lived for the moment. Really, he lived for the moment, hoping he could get another advance on a book. But yeah, having Uranus play out in that second house, it's going to give him, and in Pisces as well, so unstable. Finances are so unstable. And that's because it's connected to his rising sign, his inconsistencies socially. Yeah. people loved him and then people hated him real quick. And that affected his bank account. Oh, and then the other ruler of his chart, Saturn, being in the same sign as his midheaven. So a lot of who he is wrapped up in his work, in his job, in the novellas he would write. And then if I read it as his chart ruler in the ninth house, he also is very wrapped up with, he's very concerned with how intelligent he is and how intelligent he comes across to other people. He likes that. He wants to be the smartest person in the room, because he certainly wasn't the most beautiful. He was pretty charismatic. He could be the most charismatic man in the room, but he wanted to be the most intelligent person in the room. He actually underestimated his swans. He thought that when he wrote the book, or that article was published in Esquire, he said that they'll never know it's them. They're not smart enough. The arrogance, the absolute arrogance. They didn't even hide some of their names properly. They knew exactly what he was talking about in his writings about them. Let's have a look at this Leo descendant. Leo is very glamorous. The descendant marks out the 7th house of friendship, partnership. Knowing these glamorous ladies makes a lot of sense. The North Node is here, so I could say he needs to come out. His South Node is in the 1st house. So when I see South Node in the 1st house, it's like survival. Because the 1st house, the 1st quadrant of your chart represents who you are. It's you, right? And when you have your South Node in that 1st house, you can start off pretty selfish. And there's also Mars here, like trying to fend off everyone, trying to like be top dog, trying to just survive. It's very survivalist, and that can also look like selfishness to other people. But over time, he had to learn how to go into his 7th house and learn how to share and care and trust people. And it's in this very fancy, glamorous sign. Venus rules the 7th house. That is relationships, learning how to love, learning how to work cooperatively with others. But it's this Neptune here, lack of boundaries with people. So he had, I think women came to him for healing when they would talk about their problems. These swans would just blah, 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 blah. And he was almost like a therapist. And remember, because of this Virgo Mercury, he could remember every single little thing that they said over that 20-30 year period. But Neptune in the 7th house is betrayal. Either he betrays them or they betray him, or both. Neptune is drugs. Neptune in Leo with the North Node and Venus, that is drinking together, smoking together, shooting up together. Who knows if he did that? I'm not saying he did, but it's just an example. Recreation, a lot of recreational things that could lead into full-blown addictions. And if he's alone, he will be hedonistic. And that's the thing that got him. It's really weird because I think Libra, very Libra 8th house shit. He loved these people. He loved these women, but he also hated them. And that might have a lot to do with his relationship with his mother, who he loved, but he was also neglected. She loved bomb him. His mum would love bomb him and then run away. And I think there was a lot of resentment for that. But he adored his mother, but he also hated his mother. Explains a lot in regards to his behavior with the swans. His mum wanted to live a glamorous life and the moon in the 9th house is a mother that is perpetually dissatisfied. And she was that with his father until I think she married somewhere else, and then she moved to New York, and then it was a much better life for her after that. But she abandoned her son. So, yeah, that's Truman Capote, guys. That's Truman Capote. What an odd man. What a brilliant man. What a sad man, but what a legacy. I bet he had some fun times too, so. Truman, wherever you are, I hope you're all right. I hope you're happy. Brilliant, guys. Please read In Cold Blood. Read Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is very different from the film with Audrey Hepburn. Like, I'm gonna listen. Unpopular opinion, Marilyn Monroe would have made a much better Holly Golightly. I stand by that. Much more accurate to the book. I didn't even realize Holly Golightly was a call girl when I was a kid watching the Audrey Hepburn version. I'm like, she's just some cute girl that lives in a nice apartment and she has dates with dudes and they give her jewelry. Like, I didn't guess she was a call girl. Marilyn could have played a call girl. She had before, sort of. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this. So if you've watched Capote versus the Swans, can you put it in the comments? Let me know what you think. Okay, bye.